All right. Good morning, everyone. And thank you so much for joining us all here today. Today's shiur should be Le'ilu Nishmas, our dear friend Menachem ben Yisrael Yaakov, as well as my dear aunt Rivka Bas Gavriel Tzvi, and for Zaidi, Reb Shmuel ben Yosef Dov HaKohen, and B'schos l'Refuah Shalema Bekarov, Mishalom ben Sarah Rachel, Miriam Basara, and Yair Yeshia ben Chaya Atara. Today we are on page 15 in the Ora Vigdor for those who are following along. And today we are going to be talking about when a person is extremely wealthy and he trusts in his wealth for his comfort in life. So we're discussing over here, understanding that we have to put forth 100% effort into our full trust in Hashem. And over here today we're going to discuss what's if someone is trusting in their wealth. And Rav Av says like this: Ve'im yiftach b'roiv aishroi. If a person relies on the abundance of his wealth, yusar mimenu, it may be taken away from him, v'yishar l'zulosei, and left to someone else. As it says in Eov, it says, Ashir yishkav, a wealthy man may lie down to sleep at night when he goes to sleep, v'lo yusaf, v'lo ye'osef. But he doesn't continue his wealth. Why? Because einav pakach ve'inenu. He opens his eyes and it's all gone. There's a concept. People lose their wealth overnight. We've seen it many, many times. People, and that's where this comes from. People go to sleep at night and they wake up in the morning and there's nothing left. He says over here, the Ora Vigdor says, perhaps the stock market might crash and his investments turned out to be a failure. And this happens very, very often. Men who are on top of the list of society's elite, and what happens is when they lose all their money, they're forgotten. And Rabbi Victor Milov, he says something very interesting. He said it's a weakness of a man, and that we choose to look at wealth as the guide over here. What he means by that is that when we see a person is super successful, we look at that person, we idolize that person, and we think that money brings that trust, that comfortability, that ease of life. But the moment that person loses all their money, we don't look at it as a sign to say that maybe it's possible that a person loses their money overnight and it's just as easy, and therefore you shouldn't put your trust in it. And Rav Av says that it's such a weakness that we choose to only look at the wealth of a person, and the moment they lose it, we don't even think about them anymore. We're on to the next wealthy person. Rav Av says further, V'amar, in Mishlei it says, Al tiga lahashir. Don't exhaust yourself with hard work to become rich. Desist from this on your own understanding, meaning you should work. We're going to see over here in a minute, you have to work. Rabbi Victor says, of course you have to work to earn a living, and you should even be industrious. And it says in a number of places in Mishlei itself, it says that a person, if they neglect their business, or they're lazy, they could become poor. And it's a very important thing that you have to exert yourself to do your business, but not to a point where you're exerting yourself so much that you're really killing yourself. It says you should put the slavas, you should put emphasis and effort into your shtadlis in your life, whether it's a job or a business or anything else that's not money related, into shidduchim or to health or to anything else, that you should put your effort in your shtadlis on a worldly level, because Hashem wants you to do that. But don't do it to a point where you put your full trust in it. And that's the point Rav Av is trying to put over here. That if you get wealthy because you put your effort into it, don't put your trust in saying, oh, the reason I'm wealthy is because I put so much effort into it. I worked long days, long hours, 20-hour days. Don't put it that. Understand that at the end of the day, the outcome was because Hashem wanted it to happen, not because you put in 20-hour days. And it says also, if you blink your eye, your wealth is gone. And that's what we've seen so many times in life. And what I love about the Ora Vigdor, Rav Victor Miller, he brings over here great analogies from our modern times. He says, wealth can disappear into a flash. He says, take the following example. John F. Kennedy was a very wealthy man, and he married a very wealthy woman. And not only that, and he became president, became the top of the elite of the world. And in 1 second, one bullet killed him, and he was gone. He's no longer a wealthy man. He's no longer married to a wealthy woman, and he's no longer president. He's no longer the top of the world. And it's just to show us that if you put your trust into the fact that you're rich and that you became top of the world's leaders, that can be taken away from you at any moment. And we need to pay attention to that to understand it. So again, we can't look at the wealthy person and say, oh, I idolize that person. And then if God forbid they lose all their money, we just go on to the next wealthy man. We need to learn a lesson from the fact that you could lose your money as well. And the lesson is that you can't put your full effort into the fact that you're wealthy. V'amar, and it says further, B'chatzi yomav yazvenu b'cherisoy yeh novel. In the middle of his life, all success will forsake him, and at the end of his life, he will be an unimportant person. Even before he has a chance to enjoy his success, it will go away from him. Or else he will be denied the pleasure of his success. When the Roman general Titus conquered Yerushalayim, on his way back to Rome, he literally pillaged every single city, every town on his way, and he won every single one easily. And what happened to Titus on his way home? He got this a gnat or some fly, a parasite that went into his brain, and for the rest of his life he was in complete agony. And so we see over here Titus on his way back. His father passed away. His father died. He died, and he became now the leader. And you see from this that he became the leader, yet he couldn't even enjoy it. There are writers that wrote about Titus that in his old age, he became a very pleasant person. And in his younger age, he was arrogant, he was miserable, he would get angry very quickly, it was very difficult to talk to him. But what the writers don't know, what they didn't know, was what the Gemara Masechtas Gittin talks about. Gemara Masechtas Gittin is the reason he became so seemingly nice to everybody is because behind the scenes, he was in constant pain from this parasite that infected his brain and gnawed at his brain every living day of his life until he died. And so what we see from that is that in the front, people could look successful, they're seemingly having the best life, but in the background, what we don't even know about Titus is that he was literally suffering every single day of his life. So he got that fame, his father died, he became now the emperor, and he couldn't even enjoy that. On the forward facing, when everyone saw, yeah, he was Titus, he was the emperor. But in reality, behind the scenes, the guy was in pain his entire rest of his life. Kasha Amar HaChacham, and it says further, this is the wise man Shlomo Melech, it says, V'lo yeshaltenu halakim lecho mimenu, yet Hashem will not give him the miser the power to enjoy his wealth. That meaning, sometimes you could have the money and not even enjoy it. It's unusual to see a wealthy millionaire who is not able to eat more than crackers and milk. But you do see it sometimes. You see sometimes someone has health issues. So he has all this money because he wants to live this beautiful life. He wants to be able to go to nice restaurants. He wants to travel the world. And also this guy gets hit with health issues. They can't travel. He can't eat whatever he wants. He's on a strict diet. And everybody who's poor is eating more food than he is. People who are poor are doing better travels than he is. An unworthy rich man's wealth is like a deposit that Hashem has put in his kir, for him to guard against misfortune, until it is turned over to the person who is intended to. We have to understand that when we have wealth, the wealth that we have is a deposit, or it's just for us to take care of it. We have to use it wisely like Hashem wants us to use it. But if we don't use it wisely, at some point Hashem is going to take it away. He's going to give it to the person that it's intended to. It doesn't mean it's going to go to a tzaddik. It's just going to go to a person who deserves it, or a next person who's going to be the shimer on that. As it says, to the sinner he has given the urge to gather and amass money, to give over to somebody else that is good in the eyes of Hashem. That this person who's the sinner, he has all these businesses, he's amassing all this wealth, he's not even spending a fraction of it. And what happens? He dies, he leaves it over to his children, or even before he dies, even better for this guy who sins, that someone else, he loses it in a big business deal and it goes to someone else who might be more worthy. It says, the wicked man prepares a beautiful wardrobe, but he dies, and the righteous man wears the garments, and his money is distributed among the innocent. People who are not as wicked as he will get all his money that he had left over. It is also possible that the money becomes the cause of his misfortune, and what ruins his life. And it says in Kehelas, as it says, there is an evil sickness that I have seen under the sun. Wealth is kept for its owner, for his own harm. People are often killed, or their children are kidnapped just because they're wealthy. Sometimes people are targeted, right? We see this many, many times. You've seen over the lifetime. People who are wealthy are constantly targeted for evil things. They're ransom and stuff like that, whether they're taking away their children or doing other harmful things to them in order to take away their money. So you see, the more you have, the more targeted you are. And now he finishes off over here to say, he says, now when you study the importance over here and you understand that we're starting Bitachon, but it doesn't mean that that's the entire picture. Because when you look at in Mishlei, you will see that a person must be energetic in pursuing your parnasa. You have to have Bitachon understanding at the end of the day that it's 100% Hashem. A person, though, must be energetic in caring for his health. A person must be energetic in gaining a good reputation amongst people. You just can't sit back and say to Hashem, Hashem is going to do everything for me. You can't be lazy. You can't be a farmer and just sit over there and say, oh, God is going to plant my field and then it's going to grow wheat. No. You, as the farmer, need to go out there. You need to sow your field. You need to plant the seeds. And then you down to Hashem, ask Hashem for rain, ask Hashem for a good crop. That you should do, but by no means don't sit around saying, oh, Hashem, I have Bitachon, Hashem is going to take care of me. And he says over here, there's so many different places that we see people have tried this. And he says over here that there's a huge importance about having a great balance between Torah, Bitachon, and also doing hishtadlus with the full understanding that that's what you're supposed to do. It's a mitzvah to do that. The outcome is up to Hashem. You have to understand that. And there are many people who've tried over the years. And you see in the Gemara, there were many who did this. Rabbi Yishmael combined Torah and worldly occupation. He was a huge Talmud Chacham, Rabbi Yishmael, and he was a very, very successful businessman. And then you have people like Reb Shem Bar Yochai. Reb Shem Bar Yochai, his entire life was just Torah, no business whatsoever. But you see, people tried to copy Reb Shem Bar Yochai, but they failed. There are very, very few that can pull that off. At the end of the day, a great balance between Torah, davening, and Bitachon, and hishtadlus is required for every single person in order for them to succeed in life. And we finished over here that the concept of being constantly busy of hishtadlus and busy with Torah, we're going to see later on that it keeps you from doing sins. It's going to keep you from doing bad things because you're constantly preoccupied, and it warns against someone who tries to sit and learn all day and do nothing else as far as commerce to support themselves. That you need to have support for yourself in order to occupy your mind, and so that you shouldn't get to doing any sinful endeavors. Thank you, everyone, for joining us all here today, and I love you all.